Greetings, friends and foes. Welcome along to KYFCaYAC. Keep your friends close and your animes closer. With me, as always, your anime chef, Joel.
And me, as always, your anime taste tester, Robert.
And me, your anime waiter, Curtis.
Yeah, we're a functioning restaurant, guys.
Functioning, yeah, we got it.
We've got to go.
We made it.
We're all filling our roles this time. This is a podcast where we just get together and we watch some anime and then we talk about it and sometimes other stuff. But mostly, just friends. This week, we did a potluck. We each watched an episode of an anime that we thought might be good to watch for the whole show. We hadn't seen anything from it previously. And we're going to come and pitch for it or against it, maybe, depending on how it turned out.
And this will be what we watch in Season 2.
Oh yes, this is the beginning of Season 2. But next week...
You don't need to have listened to any of our episodes on Dragon Ball Z.
Maybe
from
don't.
This point.
Nah, some of it's good. I hear that Albert Einstein gave it a equals MC squared out of 10. Stellar review.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good news.
Yeah, I mean, he's writing stuff. He's really shifted gears from being a renowned physicist to being
to being dead, and then
now a podcast
now
critic.
podcast review.
Well, we have ties to the afterworld.
Yes.
So, I mean, ghosts got to spend their time somehow.
Yeah, but, I would listen to podcasts if I was a ghost. I think that's
what else are you gonna do?
All right.
Haunt people.
I used to back when I was a kid and really into books. I was like, I'm gonna haunt a library, and then later on, when I was older, I was like, that would be the fucking worst torture because you can't read any of the books.
Yeah.
The most you can do is look over somebody's shoulder, and then they turn the page. You're like, shit, he wasn't finished.
You have to be a poltergeist.
Go back.
You have to haunt a cinema until it gets knocked down.
Oh. Nuts, and then just haunt that patch of land forevermore.
Build a cinema!
I guess that's why you would haunt a person and just live through their life.
Yeah, what happens if they die? Where do you go?
You just team up and let's both haunt the next guy.
Imagine that!
You just, everyone, without realising it, we've just all got like a train of people haunting us.
I love it. I don't have any follow-up for this week, but... Curtis, why don't you tell us what you watched?
I watched Lupin the Third.
Lupin the Third Abridged.
Yes. So Lupin the Third is an anime produced in the 70s. It's good. Yeah.
Well, I'm sold.
Don't need to do that. I was...
Yeah.
Got any questions?
Is it? So it's from the 70s.
What kind of show is it?
It's like an action, comedy, slapstick humor sort of show.
Yeah?
Yeah. I watched the first episode. It's really old. A lot of it's like outdated. Some of the I don't think the first episode is great. And I've read reviews about
how it gets
the show and it improves.
Right.
Gradually. The first show is about Lupin, who is a thief, and he has entered a Formula 1 race, and the whole Formula 1 race has been manufactured by an evil guy called Scorpion. He has built this Formula 1 race course, $5 billion yen. Or to lure Lupin and kill Lupin. He's like kind of like your Bond villain.
Sure.
He captures the girl.
So wait. So Scorpion has built this Formula 1 track.
Yeah.
Put 5 billion yen into it.
Yeah.
Is the 5 billion yen like a prize for winning the race or something? Or
no.
How does he know that?
He's built the course. He's built the Formula 1 racetrack.
That's how much it
costs. 5 billion.
But Lupin isn't a Formula 1 driver.
Yeah, it's not really gone into. He was just kind of like, Lupin's usually pretty smart, but no man can resist this.
I'm trying to understand. Like he hasn't just bought a diamond and left it out on show for this thief.
No,
I'm gonna get it.
Could have done that for 5 million yen.
Yeah.
So the only reason why I know Lupin's a thief is because I read up more
He's a thief.
about it.
So we don't know at this stage.
What I got from the first show is not a lot. It's it's just sort of setting up the characters. Lupin is the charismatic, cool dude. Gets away with shit. Aladdin, kind of, like fast mover. He's got a mate called Jiggin.
Love that name.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Who's kind of like the older, wiser partner. And then he's got the love interest, Fujiko. And she's just there as sort of like a large-breasted damsel.
Nice.
Nice.
Are we meant to believe from the beginning that he is a Formula 1 driver and he's just entering this race, and then you find out that it's not quite as it seems?
Okay,
I don't really know.
maybe a better question would be, do they finish the race in the episode that you watched?
Yeah, so the whole episode is about Lupin. The whole thing's a trap, right? Lupin's been lured to race in this race by the bad guy, Scorpion, so that he can kill Lupin.
Yeah.
Lupin, for whatever reason, accepts this invitation
to
race a Formula 1 car. He knows it's a trap. He knows what's up.
But he's so wily that he can get out of it.
Yeah. So they do the classic thing of he's driving along the race course and a cliffside opens up and guns point out and spray oil all over
Right,
the race
fantastic.
course. But Lupin's onto that and just spins his way through it.
It's because if you hold down B as you hit the as you hit the banana skin, then
it's all good. You survive that, and just like shenanigans like that. We're introduced to another character called Inspector. I'll just find it here. Inspector Zenigata, who has for apparently maybe a decade been chasing Lupin around the world, trying to catch him. And so Inspector...
catch me if you can-ish.
Yeah, Inspector Zenigata is following him in this race.
So he enters the race as well?
Yeah, he's in the race.
It sounds hilarious. For 5 billion yen, surely there's an easier way to kill someone.
Just hire like 10
hire guys.
It's really extravagant, and so like that's essentially the show. It ends with Lupin sort of doing a switcheroo with his partner, and he goes into the bad guy's base. The bad guy has sort of kidnapped Fujiko. Lupin dresses up as a plumber. Say, I fix your toilet. And then smashes the toilet's pipes, causing water to flood the building, and then he electrocutes them all.
Oh,
they don't die.
Oh yeah.
But whatever.
Classic.
And then he rescues the girl and wins the race. And
goes on to win the race after that.
Presumably, she gets kidnapped every single episode.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Okay. Like I guess I've got a quote from the ending. So at the end, it turns out that the inspector's there, and he's like, it's just so convoluted. Lupin, the whole thing was a trap. So, and Lupin's aware of this. So he goes around, like, all the drivers are fake in the Formula 1 car.
What?
They all work for this Scorpion gang.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant they were all like mannequins.
No. They're not actual Formula 1 drivers. Lupin blows the place to smithereens. The inspector tells Lupin that he won't get away with this. Lupin then says, but you've been following me the whole time on the course. He was following his partner, which he thought was Lupin.
Right.
It didn't really make sense, but he was just like, you've been following me the whole time. How could it have been me who blew up this whole place? The inspector's like, right. But I've got a card up my sleeve, and
it was actually my partner that was following you.
Well, yeah, Fujiko turns out to have been working with the inspector, and
what a betrayal!
And
anime betrayals.
Betrays him.
Oh my god!
She gets given her arrest warrant, like by the inspector, and she tears it up, and he's like, "You're free, go." And she's like, "Sorry, Lupin." Gives him a kiss and runs off.
This is great.
How long is this? This is the 70s. I think it's like half an hour.
That's a lot to have an hour.
Maybe it was longer.
So, my question is, you said that it doesn't age well. I don't think... Okay, so Star Wars came out in like the 70s?
Yeah.
Right.
is it aged as well or better than Star Wars? On a scale of Star Wars to something that didn't age as well as Star Wars.
I like Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I just don't think it was like a. It's just not a strong start. It's just not a strong
so
start.
on a scale of Star Wars, something that's not as good as Star Wars, where does Lupin fit?
Like lower bottom, I think, for the first episode.
Okay, but you think it's got promise?
I think it's got promise. Like, okay, so I'll just like end it with this quote. So, like, she betrays Lupin. The inspector handcuffs him to himself, walks off. Lupin's already out of the handcuffs. The inspector's dragging along a broken Formula 1 car. Then turns around, realizes Lupin's not in the handcuffs, and does a little like curse you posture. And then the ending is Lupin, like, we've got the sunset scene, the car driving off, Fujika's in the front seat thinking, freedom, I've got it all. And then she looks in the rearview mirror and Lupin's like, hey! So she asks him if he's here to kill a traitor. He replies, it's nothing like that. For women, betrayal is just another accessory.
Right.
No one could love a woman if they let that get to them. Isn't that right? As he pulls out the... Oh, okay. Isn't that right?
And then he puts sunglasses on.
Yeah. So that's like the vibe of the show.
Slaps her on the ass.
Is that...
It's okay, sweet cheeks.
Yeah, so her character as well, she got kidnapped. There's the whole, like, the evil villain has this little hand pointer thing.
Sure.
And he's, like, using it to, like, fondle her, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, like, slowly undoes her shirt. And then she's in the Bond, you know, like how Bond gets tied to the table. She's in that position, and on the table, little hands come out and start tickling her, and she's like, I can't breathe. Oh no, like that's the torture. But her very big boobs, like shirts open. So that's the kind of vibe of the show. Like the cool guy, he's got the like love interest.
I definitely have to watch this.
Whether we sold it, I do want to watch more.
Yeah, whether we do this as the season or not, I'm definitely going to look up at least the first episode.
I just want to say, so it had like a little next week's episode. The main villain is a guy who can shoot fire out of his finger.
Nice. The supernatural one.
Can deflect bullets.
Cool.
It's called the man they called a magician. And also we get to see a scene of, I think, him ripping off another shirt off Fujika. So
nice.
you got some more boobies, more boobies coming along.
So Scorpion's gone, and it's going to be like a new villain of the week sort of thing.
I think so. So like I got like similar vibes. I would like Mission Impossible. You know, you've got your little team of people with the different skills. I think a samurai joins their gang at some stage. And they go around. I'm not sure what their intentions are or what their goals are, but they're just essentially like thieves on the run.
Just like lighthearted Robin Hood type people.
Yeah. I don't know if Cowboy Bebop drew inspiration from like their dynamics, but like
probably.
Lupin and his partner remind me a lot of Spike and the old
I
guy.
have forgotten his name as well. Jet,
yeah. Similar character types, although Spike's a lot more chill and cool. Yeah.
Cool.
How many episodes is it?
26.
26.
Okay. Is there anything like wolf-like about the main character? I'm just making that tie with Lupin. Lupin is Latin, I think, for wolf.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Lupus.
Are you saying yes, there is?
No, I'm saying yes, that is like...
Not that I've seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
this
on.
sounds. There's too many questions. Like, why is he joining?
That's a really strong contender for me, because I think I can look at something like that and be like, it's time and place. Not that it's good that it happened, but, you know, like, yeah, I can look at that and be like, yeah, it's the 70s.
It
Cool.
would, it'd definitely be an insight into that period of animation for that particular
Yeah, I guess.
style,
I guess what it did have going in terms of like artistic direction, and I'm not sure what it's inspired by, but like a real fun style of characters. The characters all like show their personality through their designs, and it's real playful and like loose.
Yeah.
And like the animation is you can. It's kind of freeing. It's like, so there was a scene when he's driving the Formula One car and he dodges a bunch of logs, and he's using his whole body to divert the momentum, and he's hanging out of this Formula One car, and it's it's just So I don't know, early start to, and I'm keen to see. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong.
Hayao's entry into
Hayao, and what he does for it, and start to see his like tastes and.
Yeah, remind me, what was the deal with him? He came on later to start directing them.
Yeah, he's an animator on the show. He starts off as an animator on the show,
and then he starts directing a few of the later episodes. He also directed the first movie.
Yeah,
which was his first movie that he ever directed before Nausicaa.
The first movie of
Hayao Miyazaki.
The first movie he's directed.
He directed the first movie
of Lupin the Third. Like it's
so
got
Lupin
movies
the Third
as well.
gets a movie, and he directs the.
Right.
That's his first.
So it started. So this started as a manga, or
just an anime? It's adapted from a manga.
Right. So it started as a manga, was made into an anime, and then they made a movie out of it.
Yeah, and now there's more movies and anime.
And Hayao Miyazaki started as an animator on Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
Went on to start directing some of the episodes, and then directed the movie of it.
I mean, he was also an animator on other projects before this.
Yeah, he's done other.
So it's like this was his transition to the directorial role.
Yeah, that would be interesting then to see. Do you reckon you'd be able to notice when he comes on if you didn't realise going into the episode he started?
I wouldn't know.
Have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I might blitz through that as well. I'm watching a bunch of stuff at the moment, so I'll definitely add that to my list.
Nice.
I'm going to go next.
Cool.
So this is Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon, abridged. I gotta say, I have pretty mixed feelings about this show. A big part of the criteria for the shows that we picked were that they had to not be shown in action. And that was it. And I thought, what is not shown in action? I know, a moe slice of life show. And I haven't really had a very good experience with moe shows. I haven't got much mileage out of them. I tried watching K-On!, which is the most popular one that I'm aware of. I might be wrong. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But K-On! Has a big following. And I watched 3 episodes of that and didn't like it. And I also watched from last season, this year, A Place Further Than the Universe. And I dropped that after a few episodes because I just don't like moe. But I was like, you know what? Miss Kobayashi sounds like fun. I don't know. I'll check it out.
Remind me, moe?
So we missed this in the UTK episode, under the Kotatsu episode. So moe is a type of cute that is supposed to elicit strong feelings of affection. Not necessarily romantic. It's just supposed to be super cute.
Right.
Which is different from kawaii, because kawaii is just like, oh, that's cute, but moe is typically it's associated with like femininity and sometimes young girls, which can be maybe creepy, but whatever, don't care. But moe is like, it's always girls and they're always supposed to be cute. And from what I had heard, Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragons was like a moe slice of life comedy.
Right.
So, episode 1 of Miss Kobayashi's Maid Dragon is Miss Kobayashi wakes up. She's got a wicked bad hangover. And... Oh, sorry, before we see her waking up, we see a dragon in the forest just, like, take flight and start flying towards Tokyo. And then we get, like, intercut with shots of Kobayashi waking up, taking, like, anti-hangover pills. The dragon flies over Tokyo and sees a maid cafe, and there's, like, maids outside being like, oh, please come inside to our cafe. And she's like, Miss Kobayashi's like, gotta get to work, groggy, grog. And then she goes out the front door, and there's just a big fuck off, like 2 stories tall, huge green dragon. And she's just like, fuck, holy shit, dragons, what the fuck? And then the dragon does like, have you seen the Pokemon animation? Like when Pokemon gets sucked into a Pokeball? Yeah. Like, that kind of red light animation, like, gets sucked, all of the dragon's body gets sucked in towards the head, but it's all red light, and then standing in front of Miss Kobayashi is like this big-breasted girl with horns and a dragon tail and a maid outfit, and she's like, Miss Kobayashi! And she's like, oh, I'm dreaming. Right on.
Oh, I get it.
And then the dragon's like, can I come in? She's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then she like goes inside and she's talking to the dragon, and the dragon's like, so you told me last night that I could stay here? And she's like, don't think so. And she's like, no, you did. And then she has like this vague memories of talking, like walking in. It's implied that she got so drunk that she walked into the mountains and met a dragon, and then just like shot the shit with a dragon, and was talking about how cool Tokyo is.
You should come stay with my place.
Yeah, basically.
Garage for you.
But she's living in an apartment complex, and so she's like, I'm not waking up. And then she like checks, and she's like still got a tail, and she's like, fuck. You can't stay here? And she's like, oh. And she's like, I'm sorry, I made a promise that I can't keep, but you can't stay here. Like, real deadpan.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. And then she starts crying. She's really cute as well, like, really, really high pitched. She's got, like, blonde hair, big boobs. They're not out, but they're big and they bounce whenever she moves.
Yeah.
So it's definitely pretty heavy on the fan service. But then as she's leaving, she sees that she's crying, and she's like, oh, I feel this guilt, and it feels more real than dream guilt. And then she looks at the time, and she's got 10 minutes to get to work, and she's like, oh, sorry, and this dragon's name is Toru. And she's like, Toru, I need to get to work. And then she just flies on the dragon to work, and she's just like...
But the dragon turns back into a dragon.
Oh, yeah, the dragon turns back into a dragon, like a huge fuck-off dragon. And she's like, we'll talk about it afterwards.
Why does the dragon need a place to stay? Is that established?
We'll get to that.
Right.
So she and then I expected I expected there to be a scene of the dragon landing and people being like, "Whoa, a dragon!" But they just skipped that. And then she gets back home. She gets back home from work and she goes, "Okay, I need to figure out what I said." And she's like, so we met in the forest and you said that I could come stay with you and you said that being a maid would be best." And then she does like. Miss Kobayashi does this kind of shifty-eyed look, and she looks, and she's got calendars and pictures of proper like Victorian French maids, not Lolita maids. And she's like, okay, maid would be best. And she's like, yeah, so I'm gonna be your maid. And she's like, okay, well, what can you do? And she goes, and then she stands up and holds up a sign, being like, welcome to our maid cafe, and hands her a pamphlet. And she's like, what is this? And she's like, I saw people doing this when I was flying here. And she's like, that's not what a maid is. And then she's like, okay, well, there's different kinds of maids. First of all, there's a cleaning maid. Can you clean? And she's like, look, and she burns her whole apartment. And then she magics everything back into existence. She's like, okay, well, maybe not that. She's like, there's a laundry maid. And she's like, my saliva removes stains. And she puts all of her clothes in her mouth. And she's like, ugh. And she's like, gross. And then she's like, I need somebody who can greet people. And then she orders pizza, and the pizza guy shows up, and she's like, lower human life form, you're not welcome here. She's like, that's not greeting people. And then she's like, what about cooking? And then she cuts off her own tail and roasts it. And she's like, no, oh, gross. And then Toru just starts eating her own tail, and then it bloop, grows back like a lizard or a piccolo. And she's like, right, I see I'm going to have to start from scratch. Cool. But I guess you can stay here. And then it's a little bit hazy, but at one part during this conversation, Toru says, I'm in love with you. She's like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm romantically and sexually in love with you. She's like, you don't know me that well. She's like, no, I was so lonely, and you're really beautiful, and it means a lot to me that you let me stay here. And I'm like, this is kind of weird, but sure, whatever. Anyways, Kobayashi goes to work, and her friend at work, Makoto Takuya, is like, you want to go out for drinks? And she's like, one round of drinks. And then Toru was waiting outside for her, like being all clingy and kind of yandere. And then they all go out for drinks and they start drinking, and they're talking about code, and Toru can't follow the conversation. She's getting all jealous, like, oh, this guy's trying to fuck with the girl that I like. Why can't you go? And she yells at them, and the guy's like, oh, I'm really sorry that you can't access this conversation. Should we talk about something that you can talk about? She's like, let's talk about Ragnarok and the Armageddon. I know how to bring about those. And then Kobayashi at this point has had like a full beer, and she's just like, Toru, that's not how maids talk. What are you dressed like? You look like a cosplayer more than a maid. And then the dude just like pulls out glasses, and he's like, right, she doesn't look anything like French Victorian maid. And then they go into really fast talking discussion of actual French maids, not this bullshit cosplay Lolitas who aren't doing the real thing. And Toru's like, oh, okay, sorry. And then she is like, she gets up on the table and she's like, I'm gonna eat you because you're trying to take Kobayashi away from me. And then Kobayashi's like, that's it! And then like pulls her clothes off and it's like, maids are supposed to be embarrassed, and it didn't really make sense. I get it was supposed to be funny, and then Toru's like, humans are scary. Anyways, cut to the end of that, and Toru is carrying, like, in her human form, carrying Kobayashi back on to her apartment on her back, and Makoto was like, sorry, the only reason that me and Kobayashi go out is because we're both maid otakus. We just love everything about Victorian style maids, and so whenever we go out for drinks, that's what we do. I'm not romantically interested in her. And then Toru's like, well, let me show you something, and then turns into a dragon, and he's like, I've drunk too much. And he goes, you must really care a lot about her, don't you? And she goes, yep. And then flies off. And then there's also some parts where, like, Kobayashi's like, let me buy you some more clothes. And she goes, what do you mean? These are my scales. Which is even more confusing, but she buys her more clothes, and it's just, I guess, I don't know, she buys her one, like, a tank top, and it's quite tight-fitting. And Kobayashi's like, what's your chest size? And she's like, D for dragon! And she's like, that's not what that means. And so there's cute stuff. Anyways, the episode ends with Toru asking if she can sleep in the same bed as Kobayashi. And it's kind of confusing because she's being pretty forward, like, I am in love with you. And Kobayashi's really dismissive. Yeah. But she's like, it's okay, you can sleep in the same bed as me this night. And then while she's dreaming, the dragon has this nightmare, and it's clearly a flashback to her fighting knights and getting impaled by what seems like Zeus with a huge sword. She has this really bad dream, and then, she wakes up and Kobayashi's kind of just like, that's okay, you don't have to be scared. And then she's all like, that's so nice. And then there were two other there was another dragon hinted at that was looking for Toru, and also Toru's like, I don't know what to do in this situation, and she calls, like, Quetzalcoatl, and Quetzalcoatl's like, she doesn't want you to put her clothes in her mouth because Nidhogg, when he makes something dirty, he doesn't just leave the dirt behind, he leaves a curse. So she's concerned about curses, so you can't just... It was weird. I didn't really enjoy it. I'm gonna be...
Right.
I'm gonna say that we don't watch this one. I might watch it a little bit more by myself to see if I can get into it, but
Is it half an hour?
Yeah, it's like a 20-minute show.
And how many episodes?
13, I think, plus OVAs, which I don't know if I'll watch, but
you just don't see it going anywhere, or
yeah, okay, so I know that eventually her house gets filled with dragon maids, just like
okay,
like a bunch of other, or I don't even know if they're all maids. I think that she gets one other dragon to live with her,
right?
But like other dragons show up and they're like, well, living in Tokyo is so crazy,
right?
But this is the kind of thing that you talked about, right? We only get one episode. We only decided to do one episode.
Yeah.
So it makes it kind of harder to get a better idea of where the show is going to go.
Right, yeah.
I know that there are people who say that you can definitely tell after one episode. And after that episode, I'm not so keen. Lots of just like, look at how big my tits are. And that's fine sometimes, but yeah. And Toru wasn't that cute. As like, I don't know. I just don't really understand moe in general. Like... For example, K-On! Being the alternative, I only watched 3 episodes of that, so I can't really even get into spoiler territory with that, but it's like high school girls, one of them is directionless, 2 of them want to start a school club and they need more people to join, so they do like the hard sell on this one girl, even though she can't play an instrument, to join the light music club, and light meaning like light-hearted music.
Right.
So they have to get her to join, and she has to learn how to play guitar, and it's just... It was just cute girls doing cute things, which is how most people summarize moe shows. Okay. And that's what I feel like the show is going to be. It's going to be hot/cute characters doing
What's the target
cute
audience?
Guys,
right,
for sure.
Right.
Like the models are just like they're big titty anime girl models.
Would it be a seinen?
It must be, because it's targeted. It's definitely targeted at older guys.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I'm really interested. I haven't actually... It's one of the shows that I know is really popular, but I haven't heard anybody do a hard sell for.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd be interested to hear from somebody... Oh no, I did hear... Digibro did a thing about why he really liked the middle, or one thing that happened in the middle of the show. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. But I don't think it's enough for me to carry on watching.
Yeah.
Because you know how there are some shows like that, where like I've seen shows where I've been like, that wasn't worth watching the whole thing. Like, that one part that I really enjoyed in the middle wasn't worth the extra time that I spent with this. So I might watch a little bit more and report back to you and let you know if it gets any better. Yeah, but I'm not pitching this one for season 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of the 2, it sounds like I'd prefer Lupin. But let's not jump the gun. Maybe we'll prefer mine. I watched Violet Evergarden.
Violet Evergarden abridged.
So another thank you to Joshua Son of None, who suggested this on the Reddit page. I went into this knowing nothing about it other than the name and the fact it's on Netflix. So turns out I would say that this is probably slice of life, because it's kind of, well, you'll see. Starts off in sort of a daydream state, you can tell, because it's kind of fuzzy around the edges.
Yeah.
There's a blonde, pale-skinned teen girl in khaki military uniform walking through a street market behind a slightly older, handsome man who's also in military uniform. She stops and admires a gem that reminds her of his eye colour, and the way she talks about it, it's quite clear that she is fond of him, like emotionally. But she says, "I don't know what this feeling is." It's foreign to her. Feelings of attraction are obviously foreign for some reason. Cuts to like the real life, and it's probably 1920s-ish, because she's in a hospital bed, and it's like that sort of wartime era hospital. She's in a hospital bed with bandaged hands and a bandage around her head, and she's writing a letter to Major Gilbert about having been recovering for 120 days now, and she asks to be allowed to return to duty. And then a freak breeze blows the letter out the window, and that becomes a device for showing us the rest of the town that she's in. It's quite a cool way of getting into the opening music.
Yeah.
There's a really sweet melodic sort of theme to it as well. It's quite pleasant. It's kind of a calm first episode, at least. It's really quite nice. A lieutenant arrives at the hospital and tells us through a soliloquy that Violet is a weapon who looks like a human, a tool with no heart.
Is she a robot?
Well, that's the thing. We think we're sort of. I get the impression that we're being led to believe that he's talking figuratively, but we soon find out that when she takes the bandages off of her hands, she's got what do they call it? Adamant silver bionic arms. She's got mechanical arms because she seems to have lost them in the war, obviously 120 days ago. So that, and coupled with the fact that she later exposes the fact that she has no parents and she speaks like a programmed bot. It sort of blurs the lines of whether he was being literal or metaphorical, whether she was real or not, which is kind of cool. It's a nice hook to see like what's the deal with her. So he mentions that her existence has been kept hidden and she's been used just as a tool of war for this Major Gilbert fella. And she's clearly got this sort of I don't want to call it Stockholm syndrome, but you get the right idea if I say that. It's kind of like she's got an admiration for this Major Gilbert, and she keeps asking this lieutenant, "Am I gonna go back?
Right.
Where's Major Gilbert? Can I go back to work yet?" And he's like, "It doesn't matter. The war's over now." And she's like, "Yeah, but I need to go back to my post," kind of thing.
Like an uncomfortable attachment to him.
Yeah, she's clearly been raised in the war, and that's all she knows, and she's uncomfortable outside of it. So he collects her from the hospital, tells her the war's over, and it lasted 4 years. So either it's in an alternate universe, or presumably they're talking about World War One. And he tries to find her a new home. He takes her to a family called the Evergardens, and I think they're connected in some strange roundabout way. And she struggles to adjust. She's sort of saluting to them, and he's like, "You don't need to do that." And eventually, as he's leaving her there to say, like, "Yeah, you live here now," she runs out the door and she's like, why am I being discarded? Am I no use to you now that I've lost my arms? I only need to train a little more and I'll be able to fight again.
Yeah.
So he realises he can't leave her here, so he takes her instead to his work. The lieutenant's now left the army, and he runs an independent post office sort of service. He gives her a job working there, sorting the mail, and she just attacks it with military enthusiasm and skill, and she works all the way through the night, and he comes back in the next day, and he's like, "Have you not had a break? What the hell are you doing?" kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she's sorted all the mail, and she's gone around delivering it in the night and stuff like this. One of the services that his service offers is to write letters for illiterate clients. Some guy comes in and says, "I want you to write a letter to my childhood friend because I've just found out she's marrying another man." And so she's not sure how to start this letter, but then this other woman takes over and she writes the letter out, types it up for him, and at the end she says, "I think I'll end it, 'I love you.' Is that right?" And the guy goes, yeah, and he's really grateful. And as he leaves, Violet turns to this woman and says, "How did you know that's what he wanted to say?" And she's like, "You can just kind of read it on him that he wanted to say it, but he was too shy to say it." And she says, "What does it mean?" And then you have a flashback of her and Major Gilbert, like both shot up and bleeding, and her arms like fall off, I think, because she's like been attacked or something.
Yeah.
Her arms come off, and so she turns around and she says, "I'm not leaving you here." And she grabs him with her teeth. She grabs his uniform and she's like trying to drag him away, and he's all blooded up and he's saying, "Stop it! Stop it! Don't be a bloody fool! I'm dying." And then she walks into the office. Back to present day. Sorry, she walks into the office and the lieutenant guy. He says, "Why do you want to work for that section? You were doing so well in the mail sorting system of the office. Why do you now want to be a typist for letters for clients?" And she says, "I want to know what love means." And he says, "Oh, interestingly, most of my girls get into that line of work because they know what love means." So that's fascinating. And then it ends off, the very end of the episode is back to that flashback, and he tells her, "Violet, you need to live and be free." And then he sort of dies, and right before he dies, he sort of says under his breath, "I love you."
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, and so she seems to have some sort of memory loss about it because she's not she's not remembering that he's died, that Major Gilbert's died, and
Right.
yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. It's got
really
a lot of
good
hooks. It's got a lot of hooks. Some of the things I think why we should watch it is that it's a very different style to DBZ. It's got a strong female protagonist. It's grounded in reality, at least for this part. As I say, it could be that she's bionic, or it could be that she's just got prosthetic arms and she doesn't know how to be a person, a normal person. Or it could have something weird about her that we find out later. But for the time being, it's grounded in reality. There's no like flying around blowing up the moon with your eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's set in the past rather than a futuristic thing, so it's very different. And you can tell right from the off that this is going to have very strong character progression and arcs and stuff. The lieutenant who owns the things, he's got all sorts of stuff going for him. You can tell. I would say, would you say from that description that it sounds like slice of life? Does that fall into sort of like military? How soldiers
I don't think
deal with being
typically
military,
slice of life shows are something more normal. I feel like shows like, not that I've seen Clanad, but K-On! Would be a slice of life because it's high school girls doing things that you could conceivably do in high school.
right? But
whereas this
so
is
a
like
slice of life only tend to be set in present day.
Yeah, I was just wondering that.
Because this could be like how it went for some people after the war.
Yeah. I want to defer that question. I don't know.
Yes!
Jump in.
I don't know. I haven't seen that many slice of life shows. I typically don't like them, I feel like. So I don't know. No, that sounds good though. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about Violet Evergarden as well, and I hear that it has. I've heard it's made people cry. And that's not. That doesn't mean that I'll cry because I don't ever cry. Never. Sometimes. But no, those are both two strong contenders, and I'm going to watch them both regardless of what we do.
This is one that I'll keep watching even if we watch Lupin.
Yeah, I'm watching a bunch of series at the moment that are seasonal, but some of them are coming to an end, and I also have to wait week to week, whereas Violet Evergarden is finished, and so is Lupin, well finished, so can put those out.
One difference then between the two would be that they're both the same episode length, but this one has 13 episodes, whereas Lupin was 26. So season 2 of KYFCaYAC would be twice the length if we picked Lupin. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know.
It's just a thing.
I like
closing
the sound.
statements.
So I did.
Jury, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Do you think that we'll have as much to talk about Violet Evergarden? Because clearly, so where I'm coming at it from, I don't know if I'll cut this. I don't know that we'll have as much to talk about. Like with Lupin, it sounds like there's a lot of funny stuff going on that we'll be able to Formula One and
Why did he even?
but doing like a Violet Evergarden fan cast seems like it would almost be, not that it's a fan cast, but doing that, I don't know that we would have as much to be like, oh man, and they did this bit and that was really cool, but I don't know.
Here's what I'm thinking. We've done Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
This sounds really different.
Yeah.
and I'm pretty keen for that.
Okay.
This is driven by your hatred of season 1.
It sounds more like the drama and the story, and I want to know.
Yeah,
I want that, I guess that more emotional side. And my worry about Lupin is that we will get that Dragon Ball Z thing of
this is
the same thing over and over. You got the bad
formula.
guy. You've got the
yeah. This one, Violet Evergarden will definitely have a story that takes you through from 1 to 13.
So
with character arcs and everything.
Yeah.
Lupin it might turn out that it's just episodic, like Lupin gets into trouble and then he gets out of trouble and the bad guy disappears and then a new bad guy comes in. And
my understanding of Violet Evergarden as well is that it is just one season. They're not planning on doing it. They didn't plan on doing a second season and they're not planning on doing a second season. So that would also be nice.
Yeah, that would
to not have something that we might have to return to later.
Yeah.
Okay, Violet Evergarden it is. Done deal.
Done
I'm
deal.
calling it.
That means I win, right? Sounds good.
So, season 2 of Keep Your Friends Close and Your Animes Closer is Violet Evergarden. So show the people let's see if we like it too.
Hopefully.
Tagline.
How many episodes are we going to watch next week?
I think we go back to 3.
3 episodes.
So you only have to watch 2, but we'll be watching 3.
Cool. Good.
You look like you were going to have a say.
I was going to talk about watching more things that I've watched this week. I've watched another The Devil as a Part-Timer. I'm now up to the part that you gave a spoiler for in the previous one, so spoilers, just briefly.
Last episode we didn't give any spoiler warnings, and we spoiled the shit out of Bacano.
By now you should know that our podcast is, if we're talking about something...
spoilers.
Yeah, if we're talking about something, we're spoiling it.
Just a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
The earthquake happened. The big earthquake happened.
Oh, cool.
The devil gets his power back, and in doing so becomes ripped. He's suddenly just this humongous guy, and he's got one of his horns back. It's a really cool scene. The hero says, "Oh God, here it is. He's finally powerful again," and she puts her hand down to conjure the last of her magic, so that she can conjure some sort of magic sword and slay him. And then he turns around and says, "I've got to save these people," and he saves people, and it's really cool. And you discover the reason for all of this shit happening is that actually another one of his generals followed him through, and Lucifer is the one behind it, and he's betrayed him, and he's trying to have him killed, and Lucifer's taking over as the new bad guy kind of thing.
That show is a solid 7. It is so fun, but it's so dumb. I think you mentioned last episode that he just goes through his character arc really quickly. It's just so much fun to see that kind of stuff happen. And I know that you've been, but you guys watched Dragon Ball Z and didn't think there was any fun. No, it's well enough written, and the comedy is strong enough to carry you through it.
Yeah, there's a part. He's bicycling home from his job at McDonald's, and he gets to the zebra crossing or whatever, the pedestrian crossing, and he stops after pressing the button. And then the hero walks up, and she's like, "I know, you're actually Satan," and whatever. And she goes, I can sense that your magic is nothing anymore in this realm. And he looks down and goes, "Duh, I'm on a bike."
Yeah,
I fucking love it.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I will say, this isn't a spoiler, just Lucifer is really good as well.
Yeah,
I really like Lucifer.
He's becoming that as a really fun character too. And then I also watched another thing. Right, I'm trying to get through some
baseline stuff.
Yeah, some baseline stuff. We watched DBZ because that was very well known, and I knew nothing about it. In the same vein, I know nothing about Digimon, so I watched an episode of Digimon this week.
What are your thoughts on Digimon?
Oh, well.
I
think we should watch that season 2.
Wait, first, what's your experience? I watched Digimon growing up.
Right.
And when I was 17, when growing up, I mean 8, maybe 10 at the latest. And then when I was 17, I was like, fuck, I remember Digimon. I have torrents. I'm going to download the whole first Digimon adventure. And I watched all of those episodes. So I watched it about 7 years ago. So I have a history with it. And I also played some of the games growing up. What's your history with this, Curtis?
My history is, I remember Digimon, digital monsters,
Digimon are the champions.
Yeah.
Digimon. Digimon. It's the Digi-evolution, the never-evolution. And then it was like a cool rap.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's the extent of my memory. I remember a little T-Rex guy.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Digital champions to save the digital world.
I think we've lost Joel. Sorry, for the rest of the episode. Yeah, the only thing about Digimon that I knew is that it was like Pokemon, and I knew that there was like a tiny little T-Rex character.
Agumon.
Right.
As I'm watching the opening theme song, what I'm realizing is all of the other Digimon I thought were Pokemon.
Are you serious?
Because I stopped with Pokemon after first gen, so I know that they've done like 2,000 other Pokemon to the point where they're doing like chandelier Pokemon and ice cream Pokemon and piles of garbage trash Pokemon.
Trubbish
like
is cool,
right? That sounds like a fucking fight me statement.
No, it's not. I didn't play that generation.
So I saw a lot of these things and I'm like, oh, I recognize the cactus with the boxing gloves or whatever, and I was like, I thought that was a Pokemon. Yeah. So that was the first comment I had about it. The second comment.
That's really okay. I want to pause.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I've always thought that Pokemon, apart from maybe Gen 6 and a little bit of Gen 5, had a really strong art direction. Like, you can tell, for the most part, that they are all from the same universe. 5 and 6, which is where it's Vanillux and Shrubbish. Vanillux being the ice cream Pokemon, and Shrubbish being the rubbish pile. There's also Kaching, which is a keychain. Those ones are a little bit crazy, and they start to fall way off the rails. I know that with Gen 7, Sun and Moon, they pulled it back a little bit, and they're like, we were going a bit off the rails. Anyways, point being, I thought that they had a strong enough visual style that you could tell that they were all from the same universe. Digimon were always way more detailed and also way uglier. Like, nowhere near as cute as Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, one of them... I was going to come back to this, but you brought it up. One of them, he's like a little cute-looking thing. Kind of looks pug dog-ish. But he's kind of like a pink blob. And then when he attacks another creature in this first episode, he has like shark teeth, like 2 rows of teeth on the top and bottom, and he's like pushes them out of his face, and I'm like, fuck, that's not a pretty animal.
Yeah.
So yeah, the second point I wanted to raise is that this is I was confused about who this was aimed at, because I thought it was like aimed at the same sort of age as Pokemon, but then having watching it, I was like, is this aimed at toddlers? Because it was so bad, so poor.
Trigger warning for Digimon fans.
Yeah, man. God, if you're a fan, then whatever. I'm gonna lay into it a little bit, because it was awful. And that was even me saying, I know that I'm not gonna like this because it's not my audience. I'm not the audience for it. But it was just really poorly written, and it was like there was just so many bits where. Like, for a start, they have 7 main characters, which is way too many for even an ensemble.
For a first episode.
For a first episode, they have to introduce 7 different characters.
And there's 7 Digimon.
And there's 7 different unique Digimon. And there's 7 Digimon's Digivolutions, whatever they call it.
Oh, so they're already evolving. So
in the first episode. So we see effectively 21 characters.
So let me just explain how Digimon differentiates itself from Pokemon.
Okay.
So when Digimon are born, they're born from Digi-Eggs.
Yep.
Because they exist in a digital world.
Right.
And they have their baby forms. I can't remember if it's actually called a baby form, but they have their baby forms.
Right.
And then they have the next level up, and I've forgotten the name of that.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a little bit throughout this podcast, and I've forgotten the name
Adolescent.
It's not baby, it's not adolescent, it's not
puberty. Digi-puberty.
There's the next form, right? They get to that form, and they stay there. They hang on to that form like it's nobody's business. Then, if for some reason, if the Digimon is being like tamed or trained or whatever by a human, whenever it achieves the next level, which is champion, it goes baby something, champion, ultimate, and then there's something sometimes past ultimate, but I can't remember what that's called either. Like, and something they confuse sometimes as well, which is cool. But yeah, but if they ever go to champion or ultimate, it's only ever during a fight, and then they revert back to their normal form. Whereas, like, if you give a Thunderstone to a Pikachu, bam, Raichu.
Right.
You have a Raichu.
Yeah.
If a Pokemon evolves, it's evolved now.
Okay.
But in saying that, those higher level versions of Digimon can exist, but only in the wild. Another weirder thing about Digimon.
So that's like because is that the same as how happened with Goku and Super Saiyan. He only does that when he's fighting, right? He doesn't.
It's a similar kind of.
He like charges himself up for the fight, and then go back
it's a similar idea. I don't know if it's the same thing because they don't always charge themselves up, but it's like when the need arises, then all of a sudden you have extra strength. But again, those higher level Digimon also exist in the wild, so I don't know why they can't maintain that if they're being trained by a human. Whatever. Really quick tangent. Again, in the video games, the weirder thing is, so you have your baby version, right? And you're like, I remember this from the TV show. This motherfucker's going to give me a Greymon. I want me a Greymon.
Right.
And they just keep it in the video games. You just want to get to Greymon, you stay there because going back would suck. Unless you want to go back, because then you can... So the Digivolutions are based on the stats. So if it has a higher speed... Maybe it doesn't go to Greymon. Maybe it goes to Gurumon, and you're like, "What the fuck?" So the trees for Digivolution are insane.
Oh, so it could evolve to a different Digimon
depending on its stats.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, Digimon is way more complex than Pokemon, but nowhere near as popular.
Okay.
The thing that struck me most of all is that it is very tell don't show. The entire episode.
Right.
Possibly because it was just the first episode and they needed so much exposition because of introducing so many characters, or possibly just because it's really poor writing. But the guy literally starts off, the main character, he goes, "Hey, I'm Ty, by the way. This is my friend Matt, he's the cool one. This is TK, he's the IT one."
Right.
Wait.
And he's giving them all archetypes. This is TK's younger brother, whatever.
This is another thing that maybe we should cover for you to learn.
Right.
So, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, this company isn't a company anymore. So
Which company? The Digimon company?
No. Digimon's still around. There was this company that did all these dubs for anime kid shows, like Yu-Gi-Oh! They didn't do Dragon Ball Z. But Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Digimon, there are a bunch of other ones that I've forgotten.
Right.
Oh, One Piece. They did a bunch of dubs, and they're all shit. They're all seriously awful.
So maybe it's just a bad dub.
Exactly. So maybe it's a bad dub. I watched it dubbed as well, and I had a really bad time with it, so I'm on Robert's side. But things like, there's an episode of Pokemon that me and my brothers all think is hilarious, where they find a Mankey, which is a Pokemon, doesn't really matter, and it's really grumpy and like, "Rrr." And Brock goes, "Maybe he wants a donut," and he pulls out an onigiri, it's like, maybe he wants a jelly-filled donut, and it's like,
Right.
it's not a donut.
That's really dumb.
So, but that's like a really obvious example of how bad the dubs are. But usually they were like, how can we make this relate to a Western kids audience? And so they fucked it up real bad. They're notorious. There's like
kind of just like forcing the story.
I
can't imagine that this is the dub's problem though, because it like cuts to each of his friends, and like the cool guy's doing something cool, and the IT guy's working on a laptop or something.
It's like it's trying to establish itself, like as a. Like it didn't build up to it. It's just
it just immediately starts off, and he's like, "I was at some camp in July, and it started snowing. That was weird." And then it cuts to all of his friends, and he's like, "This is Matt. He's my cool friend." And it cuts to the IT guy, and the IT guy goes, "Oh, this storm's messing up my infrared something or other, my Wi-Fi or whatever." He's giving these guys all this. "Oh, this is so and so. He's the scaredy cat guy. This is Becky or whatever her name is. I bet you can tell what her favourite colour is." And then it cuts away. I'm like, that's not an archetype.
Man,
tell me something about the girl at least. Like, if you're going to add in 7 characters, give them all very distinct.
I can't remember
needs.
the scared kid or the girl's names.
What need are they filling? What's their niche? What's their archetype?
Right.
And then immediately they get these digital things which take them into the digital world somehow, and then they each fall in a different part of this world, so that the first thing that they meet is one of these Digimon, which, oh god, I was pissed off already that the naming of the Digimon that we meet are all something mon. And I can imagine that every single monster is like that. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. God. I'm Bakuman. I'm Pukamon. I'm Tikimon.
There's Leomon. There's Devilmon. There's Angemon. There's Angiwomon.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And then not only is that you've got to learn all these different names and stuff that are all basically the same.
It's a huge
then when they
dump.
evolve, they get a different name.
Yeah.
I'm Angumon now. And
So is the show... it focuses at that in the digital world and the digital monsters. So the people are going into the computers.
That's what's happened in this one. Yeah, he goes into the computer, but it doesn't look like a computer. It looks like he's just in a wilderness world sort of thing.
Oh,
it doesn't. It doesn't look digital, and you can't see like code.
It just looks like
There's
nature.
trees and
Just
stuff.
look like he's in nature. Yeah. And then the Digimon are like, "We're Digimon. We live in the digital world."
Right.
Picture you're in the 90s.
Yeah.
The internet just gets made up.
Yeah.
And you're this guy who's like 50, and you're like, what the fuck? Probably monsters living in computers, right? No, I have no idea about the author, but that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. Somebody who has no knowledge. Have you seen Tron? Tron is a shit movie, man.
Yeah.
I forced myself to watch that.
Yeah.
Fuck, that movie's bad. People don't understand how computers work.
It doesn't. You're right. There's like characters called Ram, right?
Yeah,
and, like things like that.
I'm Ram. It's silly.
I think the thing about that film is they were just using CGI.
Yeah,
right? Like as like a way to
the gimmick.
Yeah.
Look at what we can do.
But yeah, like story wise, and so they're stuck in this world.
I don't know.
The arc is them trying to get back home.
I don't know because they find we're introduced to 7 people, nothing else other than just what their archetype is, and then immediately they find these things and they're transported to the digital world. Then we're introduced to 7 more characters, each of one attaches itself to one of the guys, and then immediately they get attacked by like a flying insect, Digimon.
Yes.
Gigantic insect starts attacking them, and the animation is so bad. Like you can see like it flies past the screen, and then it uses the same shot and flies past the screen again, and then the same shot. It's worse than like Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo running past in the background. Yeah. It's that sort of thing's happening as it's flying through the trees, and the trees are breaking around it. And then there's like 5 minutes where they're running away from this thing, and then the Digimons turn around and like fire like pink bubblegum things at this monster that's attacking, and it diverts it enough that it saves the kids. And then it circles back around and does it again, and they just keep running, and they run it, and it's the same. It's pretty much the exact same bit, copy and pasted. Yeah. It's like they got to the end of the episode and went, "Oh, this is only 15 minutes. Let's take that 5 minutes and put it again."
Right.
And then, as at one point where the main guy Tai, he goes, "That's enough. We've got to stop running." And the Digimon are all like, "Well, what other option have we got?" And then the thing circles back around, and they just start running again, and it's the same thing again. Weird. And it's the same shot of them running again, and then it cuts to them, and he's running past, and he's flying past the trees.
I would love, if you're a fan of Digimon, write in at the end. I'll give out the email every episode, but just write in, give me an impassioned speech as to why we should watch Digimon. Not on the podcast, but why we should watch it
in general.
Do they enslave the Digimon to fight?
No. The Digimon partner up with them. You only ever get one Digimon. Okay. Unless you're playing a video game, then you can have up to 3.
Sweet. And there's no Digiball.
No. They have these little things that help the Digimon digivolve. Oh, okay. But again, Digimon can digivolve outside, like in the wild, so it's never established. And I remember this. Yeah. It's never established as to why it can happen.
And the Digivolution, it takes like 2 minutes of screen time. Each one, you see him and he's like spinning around, and there's like a blue background, and he's suddenly out of this world that he's in. It pops into like a digital world, and he's spinning around.
Suffers light comes down from the
thing. Right.
And then Sansamon evolves into Sansamon! Yeah. And then it cuts to the next one down in the line, and there are literally 7 of them in a line, and you're like, oh fuck. By the second one, you're like, oh god, this is going to take a while. Sansamon! And then they all get together, and they're like, right, Digimon, let's work together and they all have their own unique attack, and they all have to say the attack when it does it, and
Agumon Blast!
So the people, so it's kind of like Pokemon, and there's like Pikachu, Electrocute.
No, but they only have they have way more of a partnership with their Digimon. Their Digimon can speak English, so they can actually talk to them and be like, "Hey, you cool with this?" And they're like, "Yeah, man."
Right.
And the Digimon kind of form these friendships with the Digitrainers because they're like, "Hey, you're stuck here. That sucks. Let's help you get home." Also, some fucked shit is happening in the digital world. Can you help us?
Let's work together, like a mutual benefit. Cool. So the attachment isn't it's not
slavery like in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Do you know what's fucked?
What?
In Pokemon Black and White, the antagonist is a guy who thinks that people are enslaving Pokemon, and that's bad.
Right.
Because Pokemon aren't getting anything out of it, and we're just literally enslaving them for our entertainment, which is like kind of the PETA criticism, and it's fair. Yeah. It's a game, so it's fine. But you know, in the Pokemon world, legit, that's all you're doing.
He's legitimately got a good point.
So you can't. He in canon, he doesn't use Pokeballs. Or if he does, he uses them like because he has to, and he's like, all of these Pokemon I have a bond with, and they understand that I'm only doing this to help them, and this is a means to an end. But yeah, you fight him, right? Like throughout the game, and you're consistently beating him, and he's like, this is just because you've trained them too hard, and they still don't want to fight. You're making them fight. Yeah. And it's weird, right? Because you play a silent protagonist always in Pokemon games. Right. Cut to the end, and it's like the final confrontation with this guy, and it's like he's trying to catch the legendary Pokemon, or like he's trying to commune with it so that he can use its power to, I don't know, kill humans, whatever. You beat him, and he's like, maybe there's more to your relationship than I gave credit to. You know what? You're right. And he just backs down. Wow.
He changed my whole world.
He was the most interesting Pokemon. Yeah, well, he was the most interesting Pokemon villain in the whole series up until... I mean, I haven't played anything past Black and White, but
and
I was
really,
like...
the error of his ways was just not being beaten by you enough.
It was super strange. And then, and then like, the legendary Pokemon that he wanted to catch, or, like, to help him kill all humans, you just catch it. I mean, you don't have to. You can just... you can kill it, but, I mean, I caught the shit out of it, and I was like, on to the Elite Four. Yeah, so it's a little bit different from Pokemon. Anyways...
So the Digimon could just get up and walk away.
I mean, they could. I think
bounce away. Most of them don't have legs.
No. Nice. They do. They eventually have legs. I think that there are some arcs where, they have these conflicts with their Digimon. Like, you told me that you liked my flower. And then they run away. I can't think of actually any good examples. But they do have these relationship conflicts. Okay, and I know that they all get separated at one point. All of the people go to different digital islands after, like, the first boss or something. But it's a very, very complex show compared to Pokemon. My computer made a funny noise, sorry. It's a very, very complex show compared to Pokemon. Right. Robots getting into anime. It took me, how old am I, 23 years to watch 100 My Anime List classified series. This year I've watched 20. What the fuck? I'm getting into it.
It's good.
And we're only halfway through. I can up the ante.
21 soon enough. By the Evergarden Ward.
Oh, I mean, I'm watching like 3 at the moment. They're just unfinished. But I always do a recommendation. And I want to recommend a show that everybody recommends, and so if you're familiar with anime, which I don't feel like is our demographic, but maybe you are, you may have heard the speech before, or a similar pitch, but if you're into anime, you have to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion. You just have to, because it's so influential to so many other anime, not only mecha shows. So it's a mecha series. So Neon Genesis Evangelion, the premise for it is in the year 2014, the humans find Adam on Antarctica. They find something that they codename Adam on Antarctica. And then an angel attacks. They don't know what to call it, so they call it an angel attacks and fucking decimates like 70% of the human population. And then the worst part is the second impact. And the second impact is all of the climate change effects that happen because of the angel attack. Essentially, humanity is just mega fucked. Fucked to the point where they're living underground. They've been just like, holding on to as many resources as they possibly can, and preparing for the inevitable next angel attack. They don't know when it's going to happen, but they apparently know that it's going to happen. Cut to Shinji Ikari. He's the main character of the show. He hasn't heard from his dad in... He doesn't know how long. I don't know how long. His mum died and his dad left, and he has been growing up, presumably as an orphan. It's kind of funny because he heads to Tokyo, which is abandoned, because it's insinuated that like a hot old lady online told him to come and meet her, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. When he shows up, another angel attacks, and it's this big fuck off monster, and he starts shooting his pants, and then the girl shows up, and she's like, Shinji, get in the car now. And he's like, okay. She is a secret agent who lured him to Tokyo, and she works for his dad. They get into the underground Neo-Tokyo, like, megatropolis that is beneath the earth, and his dad is like, you need to pilot this robot and kill that robot outside, the angel outside. And Shinji's like, I'm 14. I haven't. Yeah, sorry, he's 14. I don't know what to do. And it's anyways, long story short, he gets made to fight this angel, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
I have heard of it.
It's prolific.
It's big. It's big enough that I have heard of it.
It's massive. If you haven't heard of it, you have to watch it. It had a really troubled development cycle, so towards the end of the series, the production quality really drops because, from what I've heard, there was an entire episode that they had to cancel because of the SARS attacks in Japan at the time, and it was just too similar to the SARS attacks.
Wow.
And a few other things that happened that led to a very bizarre last 2 episodes. But because it was so popular, it got a movie called End of Evangelion, which ties up loose ends that were left really open after the last 2.
It's like Firefly. Firefly was canned, wasn't it? And then they made Serenity.
I don't think the movie is that good for Firefly, though. But
it was made to tie up the things that weren't tied up because it got
it's also it was a manga series first, and it's another thing like Akira, where the manga was going and then they made an anime series and then the manga finished afterwards, and so the manga is kind of influenced by the anime.
Right, yeah.
Also, the director, creator, mangaka is like a manic depressive, and he didn't deal well at all with the fame, so he's really interesting. They're also doing the Evangelion rebuild, which started in 2007 and it's still not fucking finished. They announced a 4-film summary of the series, and 3 films have come out. I think maybe the last film came out in 2007, actually. That sounds more right. I'm probably off, but it's been like a really long time since the last film. Yeah. And the last film still doesn't come out. Long story short, it's a really cool mecha show, but it covers every single character is dealing with really complex personal issues, and I really like the idea of, instead of being a human who's capable or is chosen and accepts the call, a hero that is chosen not because they're skilled, but because they have to do it and how they deal with it.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, and it's a spoiler to say why, the children have to be young. The pilots have to be young to pilot the Ava mechs.
Right.
And it's traumatizing to pilot them because for some reason they have to psycho-link with the mech, and every time the mech gets hit, the child feels the pain of the mech. Like, there's one part...
Is there another thing like this? Because that whole part there sounds familiar. Like, you've definitely said that.
I've probably talked about Evangelion in the past.
Yeah, maybe. What was the one about, like, Nazi war, something post-war that was a mech one? Gaius, something about Gaius.
Oh, Code Geass. No, Code Geass, they don't feel the same pain. I mean, that's a really good show as well, but they don't feel the pain that they feel when they're in the mechs.
You must have talked about this one at some point.
I have. I've definitely. I'm bringing it up now because I keep dancing around it, because I'm like, I don't want to recommend that one, but I've thought about it, and some people have said it's really overrated. I honestly think that...
But it's influential, and newbies should watch it.
No, I really like it. I've seen it about 2 or 3 times. I've seen it 3 times, and I get something different out of it every time I watch it. It's really good. All of the characters are super... There's no one-dimensional characters. Even the side characters get enough development that you get an idea of what their motivations are.
Right.
Even the tertiary characters. The secondary characters are fleshed out, and they're awesome.
Right, yeah.
The only thing I will say is... watch the series. The last 2 episodes are caused because of a really troubled development, and they are kind of a way of the mangaka, author, director working through some psychological issues that he was having. But End of Evangelion ties it all together. Maybe not in the most coherent way, but it is like a bombastic, action-filled conclusion to a kind of action series. Also, the mech designs are just... awesome. They're really slender compared to like Gundam. Gundam were always like tanks, really blocky and really robotic, whereas the Ava mechs are slender and kind of more humanoid in the way that they move.
I've seen the designs, and yeah, like that's how I know of the show, because I've seen the designs pop up, and they're like so visually different from anything that you've seen before, and sleek and aerodynamic, and like they have that, like, I don't know, I get like a like a Nike shoe, like, you know, like
they're really solid. The AV Unit 1, I think, and AV Unit 3, the red one and the purple one, I'm probably getting them wrong. Those two are they're my two favorites. Which is why, and I know that I talked about it last week, but it's why it's so disappointing to see Darling and the Franxx fail so badly, because they did a similar thing where their mech designs were so different from anything that we'd seen previously. Right. They were essentially waifu bots. People have been calling them waifu bots because they're really, really feminine looking and
that's
super.
That's a term we missed in UTK as well.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
So, okay. Anyways, Darling and the Franxx is disappointing. A waifu is... It means different things to different people, but for them...
Is it something that
it's like
will
how
tie into the hentai UTK episode?
No, it won't. No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So a waifu is usually like the girl... You can have a husbandu as well, but it's the girl that you pick from a show and you're like, she is the best girl, I would marry her.
Right.
Guys, some people take it more seriously than others. I prefer the term best girl, because there's definitely shows with best girls in them.
The guy who, I assume a guy from his name, Joshua, son of None, the person who on Reddit who suggested Violet Evergarden said, I may be biased because she's my waifu, but you should definitely watch blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm not sure what that means. But from context, I think you like her. That's
like an English term then?
Waifu? It's how Japanese would say wife. Waifu.
Oh, okay. Right, okay.
Huh.
That's where it comes from. Cool. So it's weeb.
So they use the same...
They don't. No, they don't. It's weeb people.
Right.
Gotcha. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's only weeb people
who
say
take
it.
wife and then just Japanize it.
Like, she's best girl. I don't know if it's used by Japanese anime fans at all, actually. But
because it's not spelt wife. Ooh. It's spelled W-A-I-F-U.
Yeah, exactly. So they've weebized it. Weebed it. Yeah. So, next week we will be watching Violet Evergarden. So, if you want to get in touch, you can do so at Keep Your Friends Close and Your Animes Closer on Facebook. You can also email us at KYFCaYAC@gmail.com. That's KYFCaYAC @gmail.com. The rest of social media.
Yeah.
And you know all the jazz. So yeah, get in touch. Next week, Violet Evergarden, episodes 1, 2, and 3. But until next week, I've been your anime chef, John.
I was your anime taste tester, Robert.
That was your anime waiter, Curtis.
See ya.
Bye.
rate and subscribe and leave a review. You know all the jizz. You know all the jazz.
And all that jizz.
Hang on.
You literally, I was like, is
Is that a saying?
Stop laughing.